The ruins of the Galactic Council chambers stretched before Admiral Keiko Chen, like the skeleton of some massive beast. Shattered glass crunched under her boots as she walked through what had once been the Grand Hall, where 47 species gathered to discuss peace and prosperity. Now it sat empty, abandoned by those same species who had once filled it with their songs of unity and cooperation. She stopped at the observation window, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there 6 months ago, 4 billion people had died screaming, 4 billion human voices calling for help that never came. Among them, her daughter Yuki had been teaching mathematics to children in New Terra's capital city. Keiko had received her last message just before the communications went dark. "Mom, there are ships in the sky. They said the council would protect us. They promised, remember? They had promised." That was the worst part. Marcus Webb stood beside her, his ambassador's robes replaced by simple gray clothing. His face looked older than his 50 years, carved by grief into something hard and weathered. He had been the one who believed most strongly in the Galactic Council. He had championed humanity's membership, convinced that joining the galactic community would usher in a golden age for mankind. "I keep replaying it in my mind," Marcus said quietly, standing before them begging for aid, showing them the feeds of our cities burning. The Krell swarm was tearing through our defenses like paper. And I truly thought, they would honor the Mutual Defense Compact. Keiko remembered watching the council session from her flagship. She had positioned the entire Third Fleet just outside New Terra's system, ready to hold the line until reinforcements arrived. The Krell numbered in the millions, their bioships breeding and multiplying even as they attacked. Humanity's forces were skilled but outnumbered. They needed the Council's vast armadas, the crushing military might that had kept peace in the galaxy for 10,000 years. The debate had lasted 3 days. 3 days while New Terra burned. The Horthak representative, a massive creature that looked like an armored bear, had spoken first. "Humanity expands too quickly, 40 colonies in 50 years. They grow aggressive in their ambition." The Verpix delegate, reptilian and cold-blooded in more ways than one, had agreed. "Perhaps this Krell incursion will teach them caution. Teach them their place in the galactic order." One by one, the races had spoken. Some expressed sympathy, but said their fleets were engaged elsewhere. Others questioned whether the Mutual Defense Compact truly applied to species who colonized so recklessly. A few said nothing at all, their silence more damning than any words. Only the Xinthians, insectoid beings who had become genuine friends to humanity, had argued passionately for intervention. Their queen had stood before the council and declared it a moral outrage to abandon an ally. Her voice had echoed alone in that vast chamber. When the vote came, Marcus had allowed himself hope. Surely, when faced with the actual decision, they would do what was right. 46 abstentions, 1 vote against from a species called the Korath, who had territorial disputes with human colonies. 0 votes in favor. The Xinthian queen had wept openly, her compound eyes glistening. But the council's decision was final. Marcus had watched the live feeds continue on his personal display. The Krell were efficient, he would give them that. They didn't just kill, they harvested. Every human became food, fuel, or raw material for more Krell ships. Cities were stripped to bedrock. Forests were consumed. Even the oceans were drained and processed. The worst moment came near the end. A single transmission broke through the Krell jamming. A child's voice, maybe 7 years old. "This is New Terra Emergency Frequency Gamma. Is anyone there? Why won't anyone help us? We did everything right. We followed all the rules. Please, someone, anyone." Then static 4.2 billion people. Gone in 11 days. Director Sarah Okonkwo had appeared in Marcus's quarters that night. She was head of human intelligence, a woman who dealt in facts and probabilities rather than hope and idealism. She carried a data pad. "They knew," she said without preamble. The council knew the Krell were coming 3 weeks before the attack. They deliberately delayed calling the session until it was too late. Marcus had stared at her. "That's impossible." "Why would they?" "Because they wanted this to happen," Sarah interrupted. "I've been tracking communications. At least 12 council species were in contact with the Krell. They provided navigational data, defense schedules, even the locations of our shield generators." The room had spun around Marcus. "They helped the Krell kill us?" "Not officially. Through intermediaries and back channels. But yes, they arranged for New Terra to be destroyed." Sarah's voice was flat, clinical. Humanity has been too successful. We've gone from 1 planet to 40 colonies in 5 decades. We've matched or exceeded most council races in technology. We've shown no interest in the petty territorial squabbles that keep the other species in check. Some council members see us as a threat. Others see us as upstarts who need to be reminded of their place. Marcus had felt something break inside him at that moment. Not his heart that had shattered watching New Terra die. Something deeper. His faith in civilization itself. Now, standing in the abandoned council chambers, he turned to Keiko. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You never trusted them. The Admiral nodded slowly. I'm a soldier. I think about worst-case scenarios. What if the Alliance breaks? What if they turn on us? I told myself I was being paranoid. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I wasn't paranoid enough. The emergency session is in 3 hours, Marcus said. Every human government, every colony, every military commander, they're all gathering on Earth to decide what we do next. What can we do? Keiko asked. We have 127 colonies, 890 billion people, the council species number in the tens of trillions. If we go to war, we lose. Then we don't go to war, came a voice from behind them. They turned to find Sarah Okonkwo standing in the doorway. She looked tired but alert, her dark eyes gleaming with something that might have been anticipation. We don't have the strength for conventional war, Sarah continued, walking into the chamber. But we're not conventional, are we? Humans never have been. We adapt, we survive. We do what needs to be done. She held up a data chip. This contains Option Nightfall. It's a contingency protocol we developed 200 years ago, right after we left Earth and realized the universe might not be friendly. Keiko took the chip, her expression wary. I've never heard of Option Nightfall. That was the point. It was designed to be activated only if humanity faced an extinction-level betrayal, the kind of betrayal where conventional responses wouldn't be enough. Sarah's smile was cold. I'd say 4 billion dead and a galaxy full of species who helped kill them qualifies. Marcus looked between the two women. What's in the protocol? Insurance, Sarah said. The kind that makes sure humanity never has to trust anyone else's protection again. The kind that teaches the galaxy what happens when you betray us. She gestured at the empty council chamber. They thought we were weak because we sought peace. They thought we were naive because we believed in cooperation. They're about to learn that we sought peace because we know exactly what we're capable of in war. The three of them stood in silence, surrounded by the ruins of humanity's hope for a peaceful place in the galaxy. Outside, the stars burned cold and indifferent, just as they had when New Terra died. In 3 hours, everything would change. The chamber beneath Geneva held representatives from every human government, military branch, and major colony. 300 people who now held the future of their species in their hands. The room was designed during Earth's first expansion into space, built deep underground and shielded against every form of surveillance known to exist. It had been used only twice before, once when humanity discovered faster-than-light travel, and once when the Galactic Council first made contact. Now it would host the most important decision in human history. President Elena Volkov of the United Earth Federation called the session to order. She was 80 years old but looked 60, her gray hair pulled back severely from a face that had smiled often before New Terra. Now her expression was carved from stone. We all know why we're here, she began without ceremony. 4 billion of our people are dead. The Galactic Council, which we trusted to protect us, chose to let them die. Some council species actively helped the Krell locate and destroy our defenses. We must decide how humanity responds. Governor Chen of the Tau Ceti colonies stood first. He was a heavyset man who had lost his entire family on New Terra. We withdraw from all galactic institutions immediately. We close our borders, fortify our colonies, and tell the rest of the galaxy to go to hell. And when they come for us again? Asked General Morrison of Mars Defense. Isolation didn't save New Terra. The Krell came anyway and the Council let them. If we hide, we're just waiting for the next attack. Then we fight, declared Admiral Zhang of the 5th Fleet. We hit them first, hit them hard, make them regret what they've done. Marcus Webb spoke up from his seat near the back. He had no official position now, having resigned his ambassadorship, but everyone wanted to hear from the man who had begged the Council for help. Fight who exactly? 47 different species, most of whom have populations in the hundreds of billions. We're outnumbered thousands to one. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some called for war regardless of the odds. Others advocated building defensive fortifications and preparing for a siege. A few suggested attempting diplomacy again, though they were quickly shouted down. Admiral Keiko Chen had been silent until now. She stood and the room gradually quieted. There was something in her bearing that commanded attention, a coldness that hadn't been there before New Terra. "We have 127 colonies," she said in a flat voice. 890 billion people. The Council species number approximately 10,000 to 1 against us. In conventional warfare, we lose. Even if we fought brilliantly, used every advantage, sacrificed everything, we would lose. She paused, looking around the room. But there's nothing conventional about us, is there? We're the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that should have destroyed us. We're the species that went from wooden ships to starships in 500 years. We're the species that never ever accepts defeat. Director Sarah Okonkwo stood beside her. "I'm going to show you something that few people in this room know exists. It's been classified above top secret for 2 centuries. She activated the chamber's main display. The hologram showed a timeline beginning in 2147, just after humanity's first faster-than-light voyage. The display was labeled Project Nightfall, Sicarius Protocol. When we first left Earth and realized we weren't alone in the universe, we had to consider possibilities, Sarah explained. What if the aliens were hostile? What if we were weaker than them? What if we needed to fight enemies we couldn't match in conventional terms? The display showed research stations, hidden facilities, classified budgets running into the trillions. We began Project Nightfall. The goal was simple: create a force that could operate behind enemy lines, strike at the heart of any civilization, and do so with absolute effectiveness regardless of the enemy's military superiority. "Special forces?" asked someone from the back. "We already have those. Not like this," Keiko said quietly. Project Sicarius went far beyond conventional special operations. We're talking about creating something new, something specifically designed to hunt. The hologram shifted, showing medical diagrams, genetic sequences, neural pathway enhancements. "We took volunteers," Sarah continued. "People who understood they were sacrificing their normal lives for humanity's survival. We changed them at the cellular level." Gasps filled the chamber as the details appeared. Enhanced muscle density that allowed them to operate in 3 times Earth's gravity, cardiovascular systems that could survive in vacuum for extended periods, neural processors that operated at quantum speeds, sensory enhancement that made them aware of their environment in ways normal humans couldn't imagine. Their fear responses were dampened but not eliminated, Sarah explained. Their empathy was reduced to prevent hesitation in combat. Their memory became perfect recall. Their healing ability was increased by a factor of 10. They can go without sleep for weeks if necessary. "You created super soldiers," President Volkov said slowly. "We created survivors," Marcus corrected from his seat. "Humanity's insurance policy against extinction." The hologram showed rows upon rows of cryopods in massive underground facilities. 50,000 Sicarius operatives, Sarah said. Trained for 15 years each. Specialists in infiltration, assassination, sabotage, psychological warfare, and terror tactics. For 200 years they've been in cryosleep waiting. "Waiting for what?" demanded Governor Chen. "For this," Keiko answered. "For the moment when humanity faced an existential threat that conventional forces couldn't handle. For the moment when the only choice was to become predators or go extinct." The room fell silent as they absorbed this information. Finally, President Volkov spoke. "What are you proposing exactly?" Sarah brought up a new display, a detailed operational plan. "We activate the Sicarius Protocol. All 50,000 operatives are awakened and deployed. Their targets, every species that participated in the betrayal of New Terra. Not their militaries, their infrastructure, their governments, their ability to function as civilizations. You're talking about terrorism on a galactic scale," someone objected. "I'm talking about survival," Sarah shot back. "They killed 4 billion of us and felt nothing. They're already discussing how to limit our expansion further, how to keep humanity in check. If we do nothing, they'll come for us again. And again, until we're extinct or enslaved." "What about the innocent people in those civilizations?" asked a representative from Europa Colony. "The civilians who had nothing to do with this decision?" Marcus stood again. I watched 4 billion innocent humans die. I watched children burn while the galaxy looked away. Where was their concern for innocence then? His voice was hard as diamond. This isn't about justice. This is about making sure they never dare to touch us again. President Volkov looked around the room. We need a vote. But understand, if we do this, there's no going back. We will become something different. Something the galaxy will fear. They should fear us, Keiko said softly. They murdered our children. If we don't make them fear us, they'll do it again. The vote was called. It should have been close, should have been agonizing. But New Terra had changed everything. Every single representative voted yes. 300 votes for 300 people, united in grief and rage. President Volkov took a deep breath. Then it's decided. Director Okonkwo, Admiral Chen, you are authorized to activate Protocol Sicarius. May God forgive us for what we're about to become. Keiko pulled out a secure transmitter. It would send a single encrypted word to every human military installation, every ship, every hidden facility. She thought about Yuki, about her daughter's last message asking why no one would help. She thought about 4 billion voices silenced forever. She entered the code and spoke one word into the transmitter. Sicarius. Across human space, in facilities hidden on moons and asteroids and deep underground, warning lights began to flash. Cryopods started their wake-up sequences. 50,000 people who had volunteered to become humanity's monsters began to open their eyes. In the Geneva chamber, someone asked, "What happens now?" Marcus smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "Now we teach the galaxy what happens when you betray humanity. We show them that we didn't seek peace because we're weak. We sought peace because we know exactly what we're capable of in war." The word Sicarius continued to spread through human networks, a single word that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. It was a Latin word, ancient and precise. It meant assassin. The hunt was about to begin. The Galactic Council reconvened 3 weeks after the destruction of New Terra. The representatives gathered in their restored chamber, having completed repairs to the damage caused by what they officially called the human emotional outburst. Ambassador Vex of the Year, Horthek wore a satisfied expression as close to a smile as his species could. "Manage order," called High Counselor Thrace, a tall being from the Eldrani species. "We gather to discuss trade route adjustments following the unfortunate Krell incident." "Unfortunate," muttered the Zynthian queen from her seat. "You mean the massacre you all allowed to happen?" "The human colony was outside our primary defense perimeter," Vex rumbled. "The compact did not technically require our intervention. 4 billion souls," the queen hissed. "And you debate technicalities." "The matter is closed," Thrace declared. "Now regarding the Serpentis trade corridor." An alarm interrupted him. A Verpix aide rushed into the chamber, her scales pale with distress. "High Counselor, we've lost contact with Krell Hive World 7. Thrace frowned. "Lost contact?" "Define that." "Complete communications blackout, sir. No response to any frequencies. The system's automated beacons are silent. Send a survey team," Thrace ordered dismissively. "Probably just equipment failure." Now, as I was saying, over the next hour, 3 more reports came in. Krell Hive World 12, Hive World 3, Hive World 19. All silent. All dark. The council chamber grew increasingly uneasy. The Krell were many things, brutal, aggressive, efficient, but they maintained reliable communications. Entire Hive worlds didn't just go silent. By the end of the session, 14 Krell worlds had stopped transmitting. That represented roughly 40 billion Krell lives if anyone had bothered to count. "Send a full investigation fleet to the nearest silent world," Thrace commanded. "I want answers within 2 days." The investigation team reached Krell Hive World 7 36 hours later. The flagship was commanded by Captain Zorath, a veteran Korath officer who had seen many strange things in his 40 years of service. Nothing prepared him for what he found. The Hive world orbited a red giant star, its surface covered in the characteristic organic structures the Krell built. Massive towers of living material that served as factories, homes, and breeding chambers. His sensors showed those structures were intact. Temperature readings were normal. Atmosphere was breathable, but there were no life signs. "Not one." "Sir," his sensor operator reported, voice shaking. "Population reading is 0. 14 billion Krell were registered on this world. Now there are none." "That's impossible," Zorath said. Check for underground shelters, shielded areas, anything. They checked. The world was empty. Zorath led a landing party to the surface. The Krell structures stood like silent monuments to a vanished civilization. Inside, they found the infrastructure intact, water systems running, power cores humming, food production still operating. But every single Krell was gone, no bodies, no signs of struggle, no blast marks or weapon damage, just absence where billions had been. In the central hive complex, they found something that made Zorath's blood run cold. A message repeating on every frequency in perfect Krell language, for New Terra. This is mercy. We could have made you suffer. We chose to be quick. Remember that when you think about what you did. Remember that humans showed you mercy you didn't show our children. The message was signed with a single word in human script. Sicarius. The report reached the council within hours. Panic began to spread through the chamber as similar reports flooded in from the other silent Krell worlds. 40 billion Krell vanished without a trace. No human fleet had been spotted. No battles had occurred. The Krell had simply ceased to exist. How is this possible? Vex demanded. The humans don't have the military capacity for this. Their fleets are nowhere near Krell space. Then it's not their fleet, said the Zynthian queen quietly. The humans sent you a message and you're too arrogant to read it. Before anyone could respond, another alarm sounded. This time it was from the Thexian Confederacy, one of the 12 species that had sold humanity's defense information to the Krell. High Chancellor Morith of the Thexians stood, his crystalline body pulsing with distress. The bright sky system has gone dark. 8 billion of my people. No communications. No, he was interrupted by another alert. Then another, and another. 3 Thexian star systems. 2 Verpix colonies, 1 Horthak military outpost, all silent within a 6-hour window. This is coordinated, Thrace said, his calm finally breaking. Someone is striking at multiple targets simultaneously across thousands of light years. Not someone, the Zynthian queen corrected. The humans. You killed their children and now they're responding. But you still don't understand what you're facing, do you? A security officer burst into the chamber. High Counselor. We have recovered footage from the Thexian station at Bright Sky. Before the communications went down, their security systems captured something. The footage played on the main display. It showed a Thexian corridor empty and quiet. Then, for just 3 seconds, the camera caught movement. Figures in dark armor moving through the station with impossible speed and grace. They looked human in basic shape, but something about them was wrong. Too fast, too fluid, too perfectly coordinated. One of the figures turned directly toward the camera. The armor's faceplate was transparent, showing a human face beneath. The person smiled, a cold, predatory expression that had nothing of normal human warmth. Their eyes were completely black, reflecting the light like a cat's eyes in darkness. Then the footage cut to static. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding explanations, crying out in fear. Vex's voice boomed above the rest. What were those things? Those, said a new voice, were Sicarius operatives. Every head turned. Standing at the entrance to the chamber was Marcus Webb, no longer wearing ambassador's robes but dressed in simple black. Behind him stood Admiral Keiko Chen and Director Sarah Okonkwo. You're not authorized to be here, Thrace said, his voice shaking. Authorization is irrelevant now. Marcus replied calmly. We came to deliver a message. You wanted to know what humanity was capable of. Now you're finding out. He walked slowly down the chamber's central aisle, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. For 200 years, we prepared for the possibility that the universe would be hostile. We created something we hoped never to use. 50,000 operatives, enhanced beyond normal human capability, trained to infiltrate, sabotage, and eliminate any threat to human survival. You're attacking civilian populations, Morith shouted. That's against every law of civilized warfare. Like the laws that said you would defend us? Keiko asked coldly. The laws you broke when you let 4 billion humans die? The laws some of you violated when you helped the Krell find our weak points? The chamber fell silent at that. Several representatives looked away. Sarah stepped forward. Every species that participated in the betrayal of New Terra is now a target. Your militaries can't stop the Sicarius operatives because they're not fighting your militaries. They're already inside your worlds, inside your cities, inside your government buildings. You'll never see them coming. This is terrorism, Vex growled. Mass murder. No, Marcus corrected softly. This is justice. And it's also a lesson. You thought humans were weak because we believed in peace. You thought we were naive because we trusted in cooperation. You're learning now that we sought peace because we know exactly what we become in war. He looked around at the terrified faces. 40 billion Krell are gone. They died quickly, painlessly. That was mercy. Mercy they didn't show to New Terra. Your species are next. But you can stop this, and how? Thrace asked desperately. Submit, Keiko said simply. Accept the new reality. Humanity will no longer trust the Council to protect us. From now on, we protect ourselves. You will allow us to expand as we see fit. You will provide reparations for New Terra. And you will never ever threaten human lives again. And if we refuse? Vex demanded. Sarah smiled, and it was perhaps the most frightening expression anyone in the chamber had ever seen. Then the Sicarius operatives will continue their work until your civilizations collapse. They don't need to kill everyone. Just enough key people to make your societies stop functioning. Leaders, administrators, technical experts. Within a year, your worlds will be in chaos. You're monsters, whispered a small delegate from the Pixith Collective. Yes, Marcus agreed quietly. You made us monsters. You betrayed us, murdered our children, and thought there would be no consequences. You were wrong. He turned and walked toward the exit. Keiko and Sarah followed. At the doorway, Marcus paused and looked back. You have 1 week to submit to humanity's terms. After that, the Sicarius operatives receive new target lists. Choose wisely. They left the council chamber in chaos behind them. The Xinthian diplomatic ship approached Earth orbit with all proper identification signals active. After the chaos of the past weeks, Queen Xerthia herself had insisted on making the journey. She needed to understand what humanity had become. She was received not in the grand diplomatic halls where she had visited before, but in a simple conference room deep beneath Geneva. Marcus Webb waited for her there along with director Sarah Okonkwo. The room was deliberately sparse, no decorations, no ceremony, no pretense of the old friendship between their species. Thank you for seeing me, Xerthia said, her translator rendering her clicks and buzzes into human speech. My people wish to understand what has happened to yours. We became what we needed to be, Marcus replied. Please sit. You deserve the full truth. You were the only ones who stood with us. Xerthia settled into a specially designed chair, her insectoid form folding gracefully. The galaxy is terrified. 70 billion Krell are now extinct. 17 other species have lost billions of their people. All without conventional warfare. All without anyone seeing your forces until it was too late. The Sicarius operatives are very good at what they do, Sarah said flatly. They were designed to be. Designed, Xerthia repeated. That word troubles me, Marcus. What exactly did you create? Marcus took a deep breath. 200 years ago, when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, we faced a hard truth. We were entering a universe full of other species, and we had no guarantee they would be peaceful. Most alien races we encountered were physically stronger than us. Your people can lift 3 times what we can, for example. The Horthak are even stronger. We were slower, weaker, more fragile. He activated a holographic display, so we started Project Sicarius. The goal was to create specialist operatives who could operate behind enemy lines against any opponent, regardless of physical advantages. The hologram showed a timeline stretching back 2 centuries. Research stations, hidden facilities, technological breakthroughs in genetics, cybernetics, and neural enhancement. We recruited volunteers, Sarah continued. People who understood they were sacrificing their normal lives for humanity's survival. The process took years for each operative. We changed them at the cellular level. The display shifted to show detailed medical diagrams. Xerthia leaned forward, her compound eyes reflecting the blue light. The modifications were extensive, far beyond anything she had imagined humans capable of. Enhanced muscle density and bone structure, Sarah explained. A Sicarius operative can move in 3 times Earth's gravity as easily as you or I walk in normal gravity. Their cardiovascular systems are redesigned. They can survive in vacuum for up to an hour, withstand pressure changes that would kill normal humans, and operate in extreme temperatures. Their neural pathways are enhanced with bioorganic processors, Marcus added. They think faster, process information like quantum computers, and have perfect memory recall. Their sensory organs are modified to detect a wider spectrum of light and sound. Some can hear heartbeats through walls. But the psychological modifications, Zerthia said softly. Those concern me most. Marcus nodded grimly. Their fear response is dampened to nearly nothing. Not eliminated, fear is still useful, but reduced to the point where they can face death without hesitation. Their empathy is lowered, particularly toward perceived enemies. This prevents hesitation in combat situations. You created people who can't feel fear or compassion? Zerthia's translator couldn't hide her horror. No, Sarah corrected. They feel both. Just less than normal humans. They can still form bonds, still care about their comrades. But when the mission requires them to kill, they can do it without the psychological trauma that would cripple a normal person. They're also enhanced for endurance, Marcus continued. They can go weeks without sleep if necessary, heal from injuries 10 times faster than normal humans, and resist most toxins and diseases. The hologram showed training footage, Sicarius operatives moving through obstacle courses with inhuman speed and precision, working in perfect coordination, striking targets with lethal efficiency. For 200 years, 50,000 of these operatives have been kept in cryosleep, Sarah said. We rotated them, 5 years awake for advanced training, then back into cryo. The goal was to have a force ready for deployment if humanity ever faced an existential threat. And you judge the Council's betrayal to be such a threat, Zerthia said. 4 billion dead, Marcus replied simply, with evidence that Council species actively helped the Krell. Yes, we judge that to be existential. If we did nothing, they would come for us again and again, until humanity was extinct or enslaved. Zerthia was quiet for a long moment. How does the operation work? How are they striking so many targets across such vast distances? Sarah pulled up a new display, a star map with hundreds of glowing points. The Sicarius operatives are deployed in small teams, usually 3 to 5 individuals. They use regular human transport ships to reach their targets, traveling as normal crew members. Once in position, they infiltrate. They're masters of stealth and deception, Marcus explained. They can mimic local behavior patterns, forge credentials, bypass security systems. Your species might spot them, your sensory capabilities are exceptional, but most Council races can't tell them apart from normal humans until it's too late. The display showed tactical assessments of various alien species, weaknesses, social structures, key infrastructure points. Each team is assigned specific objectives. For the Krell, it was complete extinction. They were too dangerous to leave alive. For the other species, it's more surgical. Surgical, Zerthia repeated with bitter irony. We target leadership, administrators, key technical personnel, Sarah said without emotion. We disable power grids, communications hubs, manufacturing centers. We don't need to kill every member of a species, just enough to collapse their ability to function as an organized civilization. The teams operate independently, but with perfect coordination, Marcus added. They share intelligence in real time through encrypted quantum communication. If one team discovers a valuable target, others can adjust their plans accordingly. Zerthia looked at the tactical display with growing unease. And the people they kill, are they all guilty? Some are, Marcus said. The ones who actively participated in betraying New Terra. But others are just people doing their jobs, unaware of what their governments did. He paused. We decided that collective responsibility applies. If a government commits atrocities in your name, and you benefit from that government, then you share in the consequences. That's a very human form of justice, Zerthia observed. It's the only form we have left, Marcus replied. The Council's justice certainly didn't work for us. Sarah brought up footage from a Sicarius operation, heavily edited to remove classified details. It showed operatives infiltrating a Verpix government building, moving through corridors with supernatural grace, incapacitating guards without sound, accessing secure systems with ease. The entire operation took 17 minutes from entry to extraction. They leave no trace, Sarah said. No bodies, those are disintegrated with portable plasma units. No evidence, just results. Buildings lose power. Officials disappear. Systems fail. By the time security realizes something is wrong, the operatives are already off-world. Zerthia watched the footage with mounting dread. How do you control them? What's to stop these enhanced killers from turning on humanity itself? Loyalty conditioning, Marcus said. Not brainwashing, they're still individuals with free will. But their sense of identity is deeply tied to humanity's survival. Betraying humanity is literally unthinkable to them. It would be like asking you to betray your own hive. They also know the truth, Sarah added. They know they're not normal humans anymore. They can never go back to regular society. They're too different, too dangerous. The mission is all they have. Protecting humanity is their entire purpose. What happens when this is over? Zerthia asked. When the council submits to your demands, when the killing stops, what becomes of these Sicarius operatives? Marcus and Sarah exchanged a glance. They go back into cryosleep, Marcus said quietly, waiting in case humanity needs them again. You're keeping them as a permanent threat, Zerthia realized. A sword hanging over the galaxy's head? Yes, Sarah said simply. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is no longer vulnerable. We have teeth. And if anyone tries to harm us again, those teeth will tear them apart. Zerthia stood, her legs clicking on the floor. I came here hoping to find the humans I knew, the ones who believed in peace and cooperation. I see now that those humans are dead, killed along with the 4 billion on New Terra. No, Marcus corrected gently. We still believe in peace, but now we believe in peace through strength, peace through fear. The galaxy will leave us alone not because they respect us, but because they're terrified of what we'll do if they don't. He walked with Zerthia toward the exit. Your people stood with us when no one else would. We won't forget that. The Zynthians will always be our allies, always be safe from Sicarius operations. But the others, he shook his head, they created this monster. Now they have to live with it. As Zerthia left Earth, she looked back at the blue planet through her ship's viewport. Somewhere down there, 50,000 enhanced killers were changing the balance of power in the galaxy. And humanity, once so hopeful and ideal. 6 months after the word Sicarius echoed through human space, the Galactic Council chamber reopened. But it was different now. Human warships patrolled the space around the station. Not many, just enough to make a point. Inside, the chamber itself had been reconfigured. The circular arrangement of equal seats was gone, replaced by a new layout that put one seat higher than all the others. Admiral Keiko Chen sat in that elevated seat. She was no longer just an admiral. Her new title, chosen deliberately for its historical weight, was Lord Protector of Humanity. She wore simple black uniform with no decorations except one, a patch showing Earth with 47 stars around it, one for each council species. The stars were colored red. Below her, the council representatives sat in uncomfortable silence. Their numbers were reduced. 23 species had submitted to humanity's terms immediately, offering massive reparations and accepting human oversight. 8 more had seen their governments collapse entirely under Sicarius operations and were now in chaos. 15 still maintained some semblance of independence, but their representatives looked haunted. The Krell chair sat empty. The species no longer existed. This council will come to order, Keiko announced. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it more frightening. Let me be clear about the new reality. Humanity no longer trusts the council to protect anyone. From this day forward, we protect ourselves, and we protect others from you. High Counselor Thrace, looking decades older than 6 months ago, spoke hesitantly. Lord Protector, surely we can negotiate terms that are acceptable to all. There are no negotiations, Keiko interrupted. You negotiated in bad faith when you delayed voting on New Terra. You negotiated in bad faith when some of you helped the Krell. Those days are over. She activated a display showing the new galactic order. All major trade routes now pass through human-controlled space. We don't prevent your ships from using them. We simply observe everything that moves through them. You want to ship weapons? We know. You want to move troops? We know. You try to organize against us? We know. Ambassador Vex of the Horthak growled low in his throat. You're demanding to be the galaxy's police force. No, Keiko corrected. Police suggest we answer to someone. We don't. Think of us as the galaxy's immune system. Most of the time, we do nothing. But when something threatens peace, truly threatens it, not just challenges your territorial claims, we respond. She gestured at the display. Each of your governments now hosts a human observer. They have full access to your communications, your military planning, your economic data. They're not there to govern you. They're there to ensure you never conspire to harm another species the way you harmed us. This is tyranny. Morith of the Thexians protested, his crystalline body flickering with agitation. This is survival, Keiko replied coldly. You had your chance at self-governance. You used it to commit genocide by inaction. Now you've lost that privilege. She stood, walking down to the main floor. Let me tell you what happened to your civilization, Morith. Before the Sicarius operations, the Thexian Confederacy had 18 worlds. Now you have 11. 7 of your major industrial worlds suffered critical infrastructure failures. Your government nearly collapsed. Your economy is in shambles. She stopped in front of him. And we didn't fire a single shot. We didn't deploy a single ship. The Sicarius operatives simply removed key people and disabled key systems. That's what you're facing if you resist. Not war erosion. Your society slowly falling apart from within. Morith said nothing. What could he say? Keiko returned to her seat. The reparations you owe for New Terra will be paid over the next 50 years. The funds will go toward rebuilding humanity's trust in galactic civilization, if that's even possible. You'll also provide technological exchange on terms we dictate, and open your borders to human expansion. You're demanding everything, Thrace said quietly. We're demanding less than you deserve, Keiko countered. Do you know what the vote was when we decided how to respond to New Terra? 300 votes. 300 yes. 0 no, 0 abstentions. Every human government, every military commander, every colonial representative, all agreed that you needed to be punished. She leaned forward. I argued for restraint. Director Okonkwo argued for restraint. You know what some people wanted? Complete extinction of every species that participated in the betrayal. 14 species wiped out just like you did to the Krell. We said no. We chose surgical strikes instead of genocide. So when you complain about tyranny, remember, we showed you mercy. The chamber was silent. Finally, the Xinthian queen spoke. And what of the species that did not betray you? What of those who stood with humanity? Keiko's expression softened slightly. The Xinthians remain our allies and friends. You'll receive preferential trade status, military protection, and full partnership in human expansion. We don't forget loyalty. She looked around at the other species. Any other species that wishes to earn humanity's trust can do so. It will take time. It will require transparency and genuine cooperation. But it's possible. We're not unreasonable. We just no longer make the mistake of being naive. Director Sarah Okonkwo entered the chamber and handed Keiko a data pad. The Lord Protector read it and nodded. I'm told that the last Sicarius teams have returned from their final missions. All active operations are complete. As of now, the galaxy has a choice, she stood again. Submit to the new order, accept human oversight, and live in peace. Or resist and watch your civilization slowly crumble as we dismantle it piece by piece. Those are your options, was how long? Asked a small voice from the back. It was a Pixith delegate, barely visible in her seat. How long must we endure this? Occupation? Until we trust you, Keiko said simply. Maybe a generation, maybe a century, maybe never. That depends entirely on you. She gathered her materials. This meeting is adjourned. You have your terms. You have your reality. Learn to live with it. As she left the chamber, Marcus Webb was waiting outside. He no longer held any official position. He had refused all appointments, saying he had seen enough of politics. But he still advised when asked. That was harsh, he observed. It needed to be, Keiko replied. Fear only works if they believe we'll follow through. They walked through the station's corridors toward the human docking bay. Do you think it's enough? Marcus asked. Will they actually change, or are we just postponing the next conflict? I don't know, Keiko admitted. But I know 4 billion people who would have appreciated someone asking that question before they died. They reached the memorial wall that had been installed on the station, a massive display showing the names of every person who died on New Terra. Keiko stopped before it, as she always did, finding her daughter's name. Yuki Chen, age 28, mathematics teacher. Marcus stood beside her in silence. Finally he spoke. I keep wondering if we did the right thing. If the revenge was worth what we've become. We saved 890 billion people, Keiko said quietly. We ensured humanity will never face extinction from the Council's betrayal again. We made the galaxy safe for human children to grow up in. She paused. But you're right to wonder. We did cross a line. Can we ever cross back? I don't know. Maybe that's the price. Maybe humanity had to sacrifice its innocence to survive. She looked at him. You remember what Director Okonkwo said in that first meeting? We saved 890 billion people by sacrificing our souls. Marcus nodded. Do you think she was right? Does it matter? Keiko asked. Our children will live. That's what matters. Let historians judge whether we were heroes or monsters. I just know that no one will ever dare threaten humanity again. They continued to the docking bay. Earth was waiting, and with it the massive task of rebuilding not just New Terra but humanity's sense of identity. They were no longer the idealistic species that had joined the Council 50 years ago. They were harder now, colder but undeniably stronger. 10 years later, in a classroom on one of the Council worlds, a young alien student raised their hand. Teacher, why don't we ever talk about going to war anymore? Why do all the governments cooperate now? The teacher, a veteran of the pre-Sicarius era, chose their words carefully. Because we learned an important lesson. There's a species in the galaxy that values peace above all things. They sought peace, championed cooperation, believed in unity. So they're weak? The student asked. No, the teacher said firmly. They sought peace because they knew what they were capable of in war. They gave us a chance to do things the right way. When we refused that chance, when we harmed their people, they showed us what happens when you push humanity too far. What happened? The teacher pulled up images from the Sicarius operations, the ones humanity had allowed to be released as a warning. Empty cities, silent facilities, the message that repeated across Krell space, why this is mercy. They became something the galaxy had never seen before. Not conquerors, those we understood. They became the thing that lurks in the dark, that ensures no one ever steps out of line, and they're still out there watching, waiting. The student looked worried. Will they hurt us? Not I.